And good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back into the Dragon's Den. I hope everybody's doing well. Um, yeah. So sorry, I'm a little bit out of it. Long day. I had to drive home, and then had a couple of things going on right before the stream, as to why we had to push back ever so slightly to 6:30. But welcome on in, everybody. Hey, Timor. Hey there, Pete. Reprinted 3D. Hope you all are doing well this evening. I kind of cheated a little bit. We don't have Duncan, but that's because I had to stop and pick this up for Mrs. Dragon, so I just made one less stop on the way home. But hope everyone's doing well. Sorry for the slight delay start today. Like I said, I was down at the office today and then had to come back home to get everything set up to stream. So I tried to give myself a little bit of time so I'm not as scatterbrained. But tonight we're going to be working on installing the DXC Extruder. The DXC Extruder is for the K1 series. So that works on K1, I believe K1XC, K1 Max, K1C. We have a K1C sitting right here that we're going to install this on. Hey, Eagle the Dragon, how are you doing? We're doing well. We're doing well. So just pop over here. So this is what we will be installing. This is the DXC Extruder. This is a interesting little extruder that was designed by Omnarello, and his company is D3vil Designs, D3vil Designs. So you'll see you have Creality, Phaetus, and DRIVil Designs working together on this. Supports the K1, K1 Max, K1C. Uses patented RNC ultra-wear resistant coated gears, smart filament break detection, plug and play integration, which is nice. There should be no firmware changes needed, and enhances material compatibility. It uses a dual gear drive system. So you've got the drive gear driving two actual filament gears, and it's a gear on one side and the U-channel bearing on the other. But because you've got two, you have more teeth engagement, which should provide a better experience overall. It has a quote-unquote open cooling architecture, meaning the air can flow through it to keep from getting some heat creep clogging issues. The plug-and-play integration, once again, that means we won't have to make any changes to the printer. It does have smart filament break detection, and to do this, we'll basically unplug the existing filament runout sensor to allow it to use this sensor instead. It does support PLA, ABS, PET-G, ASA, PCPA, TPU 95 and 85A, and your CF filaments. And once again, the helical gears and the U-channel. So that's what we'll be installing today. On the package, there is a on the package. Whoa, why are you way up there? Ay, 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 ay. There we go. So on the package, we do have a QR code. That QR code takes us to the install instructions, and that's what we'll be going through and working with. So real fast, let me turn around here. I believe this is already off. We'll move our maker chips. And of course, I just realized that there is filament still in this, so we'll give that a trim. pull this back. Be sure to unplug the printer. And preferably without causing any bodily injury. 1, 2, 3. We'll move that right over here. So, if some of you may remember, how's it going, Tech Jeeper? On a previous stream, we talked about we had added a top to ours, so it does have a hinge system and the risers. So we're going to go ahead and just pull that off. So we can set this over to the side here. And we have our riser system set up here. And we've moved our filament runout sensor from the outside to the inside in this setup. Once again, we're going to be bypassing this altogether, and it'll now be run from a different mechanism. So we'll go ahead and pop in here to our manual. And that, of course, did not do what I wanted it to do. What am I looking for? Okay. Sometimes. So we do have a manual here. We'll go ahead and click into that. Meanwhile, we'll jump over here and see if we can't bring up the overhead camera instead of the bench camera. There we go. We'll move this around as needed so that we can see that but still see our top deck here. Hey Chewy, how's it going? Lift with the back. Yep, lift with the back. Make sure we get that hernia in full effect there. So it's the DXC Extruder, once again by D3vil Designs, Phaetus and Creality. It's a pretty small little sucker. Helical gear, dual gear, blah, blah, blah. We just went through all that. Installation and assembly. Heat up the nozzle. After reaching the temp, toggle the handle above the extruder to the right and remove the filament. Cool down and disconnect the power. And we're going to have to do that because I left filament in there. So, and I've also got it unpowered. So let's grab our handy dandy bench power cord. We'll get this turned on and get this removed. So I hope everyone's doing well this evening. Once again, in the package here, right? This is the DXC Extruder package. And I'm going to be slightly careful because I know that there is a screw loose in here. But there is our extruder set up. And there went the screw that I was looking for, right? We've got a little bit of parts, and there is the extruder. The wires coming out are for the filament sensor, so we will need those, and we'll need the screw that fell down here because that screw is a different length And there will be one screw that we're going to take off here that needs to be a different length for the new extruder. So we're turned on. I'm going to go into the extrude retract. And we'll do a retract sequence so we can get our filament out of there. So I'll unscrew the left and right M3 bolts on both sides of the protective casing. Remove the front protective casing with force from the top of the front, and then remove the rear protective casing as shown in the picture. Okay, so our protective casing kind of comes down and does a J, so it goes farther back at the bottom than at the top, and that's where the two screws are down at the lower side. So I'll just pull these out for the time being. Might make it a little bit easier to get in here. Filament's coming out, and I'm getting some steam, which is kind of interesting. And interesting because steam from ABS. We'll flip this to the right, and we'll pull our filament out. So what that means is this ABS that's been sitting here in the room is slightly waterlogged. Okay. So we're going to need to cool this down now, which it does automatically. So we're just going to have to let this cool down, and then once it's cooled down, we will go ahead and remove those bolts. We'll probably remove the bolts now. These are M3 bolts, but they are flathead bolts. So what they would call low profile bolts. So we'll use our 2mm driver here. And these are also pretty small bolts. I'll go ahead and pop those off. I'm right there under the bed. And where is... There you go. We'll pop that light off, which might make it easier to see. I'm going to go ahead and push this to the other side, and we'll remove that other bolt over here. Poly dryer, or in my case, I have the E-Dry right off to my left under the black box, which is where most of my stuff is sitting right now. Now, once again, it wants us to remove the front protective casing and with force from the top of the front. I never know what they mean with force here. Okay. Oh, there we go. So carefully, because you have to kind of pull it from the bottom and lift it up. There are two little pins right at the top here that this pins into. Now, We've got a cable here to the cooling fan. I am still on at the moment, so I'm going to let that kind of still do its thing to cool this down. We're at like 100 degrees still on the nozzle, so we'll let that go for a little bit. So how's everybody doing today? Hopefully pretty good. I know I had a pretty decent day. Is this, yeah, this just pops up and off. Once again, there's two little pegs right here. I know it's hard to see, but you can see the indentation here and here where those pegs, it just goes right down over those pegs. So once we get down to like 70, I'll just go ahead and power down the machine. Okay, we're at 70C on the nozzle, so we'll go ahead, power that off. We're going to do the right thing and unplug the machine. So let's lay that plug there. The front comes off. Now we've got the fan wire right here. There's they gooped these, so I wonder if I can pull this out or if I'm going to have to, yep, there we go. So there's the fan. It looks like a 4020 fan. 4024 by W20C. Yeah, it's a 24 volt. Looks like a 4020 fan for the cooling there. Little bit of discoloring at the duct, but not a lot. Like I said, I have been running the PETG as well as ABS through here, so getting a little bit of just discoloration on this from the heat, no big deal. It's not deformed or anything. We're still looking good on that. I do know that there's 3D prints that you can do to replace this, so we got the front off and we've got our front board now visible. And we've got our rear shroud off, so we now have access to the motors and stuff. Now the next thing it's going to do is tell us to remove the motor wire. So we've got the motor here, we've got a cable clip, and then it comes down. And let me see if I can get these wires outside the cable clip or not. It's going to be a no. The motor terminal is the third one here. So you've got a blank plug, the motor plug, and then something else. So we need to remove that second plug. Once again, there's some type of gunk on here. So we'll see how easy it is to get this plug undone. I might need to use some tweezers. trying to use the points on the tweezers to break the gunk hold there. That's nice. Mhm. This is a pretty delicate connector. God, I just really don't like that. Um, there's like two boards double stacked there. I'm wondering if it might be better to unmount the board. That's not going to work. Just because these connectors, they seem to want to um, twist on or bend on the board versus being able to pull things out. So it looks like there's a little cover here on the front. I'll take this off. And hopefully that will get me access to the board to see a little bit better. Okay, so this is a strain relief for the main cable. It comes into the main board here in the front. Ooh. Seriously? I know why they put gunk on all this stuff, but I really, really wish they wouldn't. And you stand a pretty good chance of pulling the actual pin connector off the board when they add that gunk on there, just trying to get it off. Yeah, that might work. I don't know. It depends on what they used. This doesn't look like the normal hot glue. This is like a yellowish green snot. Mhm. Well, let me see. What's the next step after that? Remove that. Remove the extrusion kit. There's a series of screws on the side. There's a 2.5. Use flush colors, pull it off that way, yeah. All right, that one came off. This one's going to come off. There's 2 on that side. What we got on the other side? And 1 on the other side. Okay. That should allow us to remove this up and out, hopefully. Being careful with the wires there. Hopefully make it easier to get the wires out of that wire clip. If I can figure out which way to take them. There we go. And quite honestly, I'm going to just try and leave that connected. I just need to take this motor off and then put it on the new one. So let's see if we can just do that without removing the wire altogether, because it's just going to kind of go back in. Hey, Martin, how's it going? I did not 3D and T printing. I probably should have. Okay. And very carefully take the extruder off. And there is a gasket right there. Connect the motor wire to the male to female extension cable. That's the thing, there is an extension cable. Pay attention to the direction of the terminals. Do not force it when you insert it. Okay. All right. Oh, there we go. And that did what I was hoping it wouldn't do, which was pull the actual connector off with it because of that hot snot that they use. Let me see if I can scrape some of that gunk off. Okay. Gunk off. Now I'm going to need to get this put back on the pins gently. I obviously did not expect this to be worked on by somebody with meat mitts. Okay, that connector is back in place. Good. We ran a bunch of flow tests and models yesterday. Oh, wow. Hey, Jod, Jod Paravadavos, how's it going? Welcome in. Yeah, Martin is everywhere, isn't he? Hey, Tech Jeeper. Soaking IPA, yeah. You tried it and then your printer smelled like beer. Yeah, there you go. You ran a bunch of flow tests and models yesterday. Our inset for Saturday stream. Oh, you're set for Saturday stream? Gotcha. Getting 24 to 27 millimeter cubed off the stock setup for standard PLA. Very nice. Very nice. Well, it would be a good thing, but it'd also be a bad thing because that means you wasted IPA on a printer. Okay, so it wants us to connect the motor wire to the male to female motor extension cable included with the product. Pay attention to the direction of the terminals. There is a male to female extension here. So if you install the motor in what I will just say is quote unquote the right way, you can just barely get the motor in or the cable in. That's not good because that means that it's way too tight. So what they're looking at is a male, female, male, whatever. This end goes with these. Make sure that your pins are on the same side. And we'll plug this in. And there's our little extension that just gives us, what, about 3 centimeters more, 3-4 centimeters of length to work with. Now we're going to take the DXC extruder here, and we're going to need to take this screw out up in the top left. Actually, let me, after, okay, let me rephrase that. I need to get my motor in place, but yeah, those screws need to be backed out so that we can then tighten them into the motor. We're just going to loosen those until they're pulled back through the extruder. And there is an access hole right here, but you can't get to it without or with the driver, so you're going to have to use the Allen key that they supplied. And once again, I'm just going to go in there and kind of back the screw out, applying a little bit of pressure on the back to pull it out. Maybe not. So when we go to set the motor in here, we need to make sure that the wires run through this channel here. Okay, they have to run through this little built-in channel underneath the motor there. And these are the wires for your filament runout sensor. So just make sure that they're kind of aligned there. And the wires for the motor, They wind up going above or below. Looks like facing down. So this being the top, our motor wires are going to need to come down that direction. So something like that. We'll go ahead and get our screw tightened back up. Once again, making sure our wires are in that trough and not being pinched. If they're pinched, you'll get inaccurate readings on your filament runout sensor. And we'll go through this side here to screw down the bottom and tighten that up on the motor. So now we've got our extruder put back in, motor wires coming down to the right. We've got our wires for the filament runout sensor coming through. Rotate it around, the wires will come out this way, which is not what we're seeing in the video there. So note the direction of the motor cable is diagonal to the lower left. So diagonal, lower left. So lower left, diagonal down. During the installation process, please avoid bending the cable of the material breakage sensor to prevent damage. Okay. Insert it. After the extruder is inserted into the groove fit, reinsert the proximity brake sensor and motor cable into the toolhead board at the same time. Remove the cable of the material cutoff sensor at the back. We're going to go ahead and install this. We've got the one screw on the left and the two screw holes on the right hand side here to reinstall those. So we'll take this, and it should just be a straight slide in fit. It'll be a fairly tight fit. Make sure we're not catching wires on anything as we slide this down in there. We'll go ahead and reinsert the three screws. We'll be down in there. Thought we were. There we go. One. Two. And then three comes in from this side. Oh, come on, you little. It's lined up. Why aren't you going in? There we go. Yeah, I'm hoping to see some pretty decent flow rates. Why was that AC to get an extra 2 or 3 inches? Well, I mean, for a cable it is. Okay, now it wants us to install our wires. So these wires are going to have to come around and go through the back. Our extruder wires are going to come back through here, and I'm going to try and put them back into that little cable management slot, which it'll be easier to do one at a time, potentially. Potentially. Actually, let me double check. All right, yeah, no worries. They're going to tell us to do a zip tie. So the motor goes on the bottom. So once again, we need to figure out which way the connector goes in. Make sure it's behind this little plastic piece here. Guide these up and in. Our 3-pin filament runout sensor goes in at the top, which is going to be a booger because my connector wants to twist on me based on the cables. Do the smart thing, use some tweezers, hopefully. There we go. We'll grab our other cable and potentially need to use our tweezers once again to help guide it up into place. Oh, come on. Keeps wanting to twist on me. All right. Whoever created these little connectors, vlogging is too good. Okay, my connectors do not look bent, so that's good. Anyone has installed this before, please let me know if you've got a magic trick to get the connector to go in, because I would love to hear it. And what do you mean by they still use the spacer? Are you referring to the little cable extension? I believe I saw Modbot do this where he unscrewed these boards and was able to get a little more access to that connector, which if I can, that's going to be a godsend here because I'm afraid of bending this connector all out of whack. And once again, are you referring to the that spacer wire, that extra extension wire? Okay, that ought to make it easier. One would hope. I believe I got that in there. Now I'll just screw this board or these two boards back down. Apparently was easier said than done. So this is nice. It's two boards sandwiched together, and then these two boards hold the fan for the hot end cooling to the heat sink. A little bit of an interesting design there. And like I said, just not a huge fan of these tiny connectors. We also need to get this little sucker here back in place. What was that? These are these two. I don't think these were required to come out. I think this is just me making it easier on myself, or at least that's what I'm going to tell myself. Hopefully we don't wind up with any weirdness issues. Make sure that that is fully seated on that board again. Remember, we have to disconnect our filament runout sensor back here. We'll go ahead and just pull that down some so it's out of the way. What else do we have? We have two little screws. These are the cover screws. What else do we need to do? We need to zip tie our wires at the back with the supplied zip tie. And where are we zip tying to? Okay, there is a quote-unquote boss here, as in there's a little stud with a hole. So we're just going to go around that, and we'll connect these. We'll loop these up. I'd really like to see about getting these around the into that cable tie, or not the cable tie, but that cable piece again, but we'll do this zip tie right here. Make sure we get all of our cables in there, or all the wires of the two cables in there. Make sure that these are routed through within that shroud. Bring those up, kind of keep them nice and snug there at the back. Trim that off. And I don't think we use this shroud anymore because I don't think it'll go there, but reinstall the front protective housing, remove, then tighten the left and right bolts that were yeah, because this, it will not sit on there the same way. So this shroud, even though it's circled there, it's just the same photo. We're going to put that off to the side. We need to put our front shroud on, and we need to take our PTFE tube and put it down in the ECAS fitting. Be sure to plug your fan back in, which once again is another small tiny crimp or terminal with plenty of glue and goop on it. No, maybe so. There we go. Just take your time, go slow, gently do it so you don't damage anything. Should be our 2mm driver again. One screw each side at the bottom. Okay. I'm just going to go through and look through this one more time. Doesn't look like we used that screw that they provided in the kit or the small screw that they provided in the kit, which is probably an M3 by 4. Installed that. We did get a little pallet clip here that we'll install on our PTFE tube. And you may notice as I throw that collet around, there we go. And I just realized I've got another spring here, so we're going to take things apart once again. I'm pretty sure I know where that spring goes. Hey, Hovac, how's it going? You get to watch live tonight. Awesome. You get to see me undo and redo a couple of things real fast. So we just put the front cover on, and we'll have to take it back off because there's a spring that didn't go back in. It was a spring that probably wouldn't have been an issue. It was something that I took off just to give myself a little more, we'll say, playroom. So most likely it went right under here because there's a spring on this side, so I'm sure there's a spring on this side of it as well. So I had taken this cover off so I could take the two boards and actually pull them off, which gave me a little bit more access to these small fiddly wires that you see in the middle picture on the top left. It's just, this stuff is super, super duper fiddly, and those connectors are so tiny that I just felt it was easier to pull that board out, easier and safer to pull that board out than that is our power flickering as we're getting storms here in the local area. That there, crimps that wire down. Do not like that, but it's okay. Those go on the shroud. That goes there. That goes there. This will go back on our shroud. I'm going to pull the edges of the bottom shroud ever so slightly to spread it out to get it on there. Now we can go and put our two screws in them from the side. And once again, this is the DXC Extruder from Omnarello, aka D3vil Designs. It is fully licensed with Creality, and Phaetus makes it. So we've got our tensioner right here. This is an automatic tensioning lever. So it gives us tensioning at 2 points. Okay, it looks like I just got reconnected. I don't see any drop frames per se, but we did just disconnect and reconnect. I believe these two screws were the ones that went through here. I will go ahead and get these screws back in here. Now, if you've done the Cyclops or another extruder upgrade by Omnarello, You may have to go back in and do some changes. Because that extruder may have used a different motor. If you didn't pop this extruder off and reuse the same motor. I know when ModBot did his install, he had done a motor swap out, so he did have to go back in and change some things. I am still running the standard firmware, so I don't need to make any changes. Polymaker stream was freezing up, maybe a Twitch thing. Maybe, but like I said, I've just took some lighting blips here, so it very much well may be that I just did a reset, though I'm not seeing any drop frames, which is weird. So the chat reconnecting might be a Twitch thing. Now what I'm going to do, the extruder here and the extruder cover, once again, this can't fit back on because we just put something that's a little bit taller in here. So this shroud won't go on. This just sits off to the side now. We'll put our drivers away here. Our instructions are telling us to go ahead and plug things in and power things back on. So that is what we will do next. It says power on the printer, perform a self-test, and verify the operational status of the extruder. Now, because this sits up higher, if you are not, if you are not running the top hat like I am, you may have some issues. I'm just playing around with the wires trying to tuck them up next to the motor some. You may have some issues with the height hitting your plate because this does sit up higher than the plate originally does. And I will kick this over to bench side and hopefully we'll be able to see that. So if I raise this up, you can see here's the top and then there's that extruder. So if I take something like the ruler here and set it across this top plate, this is where our top would sit. Yes, it does come up a little bit, but not enough to clear this anymore, right? So you will have to go to some type of top hat, I believe, for this to work effectively without knocking your top hat off. Now, if all your printing is PLA and PETG, just leave the top hat open. You'll get some noise, but it won't be too bad. Now, I've got the printed top hat here. I'll go ahead and put my pieces back in that I took off. Oh, we got one of our vent sides over here, one vent side here, and put them in the right direction. It always helps. There we go. So we've got that put back together. We'll take our top hat here and slide it on the top hat clasps. Get that lined up. And once again, all I did for our filament runout switch, which we moved to the inside with this top hat version, I just took this and sat it off to the side so it's out of the way. But we need to disconnect this one because we now have a filament runout in the extruder itself. Now everything came up, nothing aired out. Let me turn her around, preferably without knocking a bunch of stuff off the table in the process. We'll turn her around. slide her back some so you guys can get a fuller view. And it says to perform a self-test. So I think that's under our configuration. We have a self-check. And sure, we'll select all, which means we'll redo input shaping. I will leave the door closed and everything for the input shaping so that we get actual good results. I'm going to make another look in here just to make sure I didn't leave anything down here. No screws or anything in the way. Close that and we'll say start. And it says do not touch things. So I will step back, grab my coffee, and have a drink while we watch. My stream's been fine. Okay, Moji. I just know that it said, you know, chat was reconnecting for some reason, which was weird. So yeah, I've been working on doing some prints for the CASA enclosure, and I keep getting warps with ABS on some parts. So I think on the larger plate pieces, I'm just going to either, I'll try and run them on this and see if it holds better. I doubt it. But if I need to, because I had it warp on the X1C and I had it warp on the Core 1 using ASA. So if I continue to have issues with those larger parts, what I'll do is I will print those. There's two things I can do. I can either one, try and print them on the H2D down at Ecovate this weekend, or two, I can just print them in black PETG, which hopefully I wouldn't have any warpage issues with. I don't know why I'm getting warpage issues with the ASA. It's very frustrating, but they are larger flat pieces. But yeah, once this is done, we'll grab filament and we'll run a print. So also, I will be right back. I'm going to grab something real fast. So I had gotten a couple of other things while I was out at Midwest Rep Rap Festival. And a couple of things that I had gotten beforehand. So the printer, the K1C, normally comes with the A plate, which is the smooth surface plate. And it specifically says this is for PLA. Okay. Then I have, hey Waters, how's it going? Then we've got the textured plate on here, or the B plate, which it says is for carbon. It's really just for just about anything else. I had also purchased and have not used yet an effects plate that has carbon fiber effect on one side and this diamondy effect on the other. So we have that to play around. Now you'll notice that this does not have the little scrubber on it, so I'll have to, I think I can get those somewhere online. And then at Murph, right across from us, were the folks here, was it Eindecke? Or, I'm sorry, Kadivi. I don't know why I keep wanting to say Eindecke, but Kadivi. So these folks are right there, and you'll see this says PLA, PETG, and ABS. So these are double dipped build plates. Says avoid contact with IPA, clean only with a damp towel. Adjust suggested prairie tip according to your material property. PLA is between 30 and 50. PETG is between 50 and 70. And then ABS is between 80 and 100. And yes, you heard that right. You can run this ABS. Most of these plates that I've seen like this are PLA PETG only. You can't run these on ABS. This one you can, so that's what I wanted to do, is give this a shot at ABS temps. And I hope it works well, because I got one of these plates for the K1C. I've got one for a bamboo, and I got one that's large enough to go on the whatchamacallit, the Ender 5 Plus, which is 370 by 370 by 420. And so I got a plate for that because we will be doing that build. We may start the frame for that on Saturday. We may be in a bit of a holding pattern over here on the riff. I've reached out to V4 Projects to see if he could at least give me the CAD pieces or the STLs for the enclosure for the SKR Pico and the umbilical mount. That way I'll be able to get those printed and we can continue on the riff and cabling and doing up everything on the top side. But for those of you that will be going down to Echovate on Saturday, I will be down there. I might bring this, I might not. I've got a couple of projects there I'm working on anyhow, so I'll have some stuff to work on. And we'll definitely chat a lot. Let me see, let me do an update here and see if he has added anything else. Does not look like he has. And no reply to my comment. Okay, no worries. I'll keep trying to reach out to him. Yeah, are you still down at the shop, Waters? And if you are, is the H2D finished and the build plate cleared so I can kick off another print? Or did you go home to finish packing for your trip tomorrow? So if you're going down to Echovate this weekend, we have the store to ourselves. So Waters and the owner, Beverly, will be out in San Francisco. They leave tomorrow for San Francisco. So we get to take over which means Saturday stream may be from the store before everything opens up and we have people in there, or it may be delayed. You forgot to flip the H2? Well, I mean, don't flip the H2, but I mean, take the print off. But that's okay. I'm assuming nobody's there, so I can just, I'll do it in the morning. No big deal. No big deal. Yeah, I hope everybody's having a good week. It's been a short week for me, just because we had our trip out to Midwest Rep Rap Festival and came back from that. Yeah. I've also seen people that did like they get rid of the cable chain and they go with just like a split loom sleeve on this that helps keep it from slapping everything all the time. So you drop balls out of the A1 X axis and had to scrounge them off the table. You drop balls out of the A1. What? Well, why did you? Okay, I don't know. I don't know why you took the X-axis off. Was that the one? So I was sitting there and somebody had brought in an A1, not a mini, but an A1 with some issues. And one of the issues was, well, the belts are getting chewed up. And we look at the belts on the X-axis and somebody had greased the belt. And I do mean that. They literally greased the GT2 belt. Or at least I hope it was grease or some other type of lubricant and not something else. Okay, so the self-check completed. So that was good. So we did that. Yeah. So we can come in here and I think we still have some files on here. That'll work. We will do some type of test down the road as far as flow goes. But for now, I'm going to scoot this as far over to the side as I can. See if I can't get this over here that I can run in. For some reason, I don't think that's going to. It's gone. It's a mystery. It has departed of its own accord, apparently. So, can't do that. And we're going to do something in PLA so we can look at it from the top. So we'll flip this up and take this off. And the reason I'm doing that is because I'm going to have to turn this to the side and run it on a spool roller. That goes there. There's the lights flickering again. Slightly disconcerting. We're going to turn this around. Do that. We've got a spool roller. I need some PLA filament. let's go with this one. Is this the one I thought it was? It's not the one I wanted. Oh, yeah, we'll use this one. This is Sorcerer's Red. This is a spool that I got for somebody. I won't say who that somebody is because, well, technically this color was never made in the U.S. It was for another country and was made in conjunction with I believe a game release. All right, so you see me just kind of pick this up a little bit. This is another reason why I want to pull this out of this cable chain some, is to give this a better curve. I'm saying that you're probably not seeing what I'm talking about. So the curve that comes in here is kind of brings it in at a steep side angle. So I tend to do like this so that it comes straight down when you're pushing it in. But you push it in until you feel it kind of get down in there. And then we'll come into the extrude retract screen. And we'll just go ahead and say extrude. And that's going to warm the nozzle up and go through and load our filament. Had a good week after meeting you at Moist Fest. Yeah, Moist Fest was awesome. And since my lights are flickering with the power, I need to get that file of I survived the power outage of Murph and print one of those. Yeah, the one with the nasty belt. That's the one that you were working on. Did you at least glove up for it? Because that was nasty. Yeah. And if you want to see what I'm seeing, you can see some of it right here. But let me just pull this piece and I'll bring this up. That's this rubbing against the side of this piece. That's just the cable chain smacking into this piece as it's printing. So that's what I'm saying. I want to kind of get rid of this cable chain, and I've seen one where it gets rid of the cable chain and just goes with a cable wrap. So we're going to have to do something like that and get that going. And it says it's finished, but it's not. We'll give it another run. It might just not have pulled it all the way through. Well, I just might not have had it pushed in far enough. So as soon as it says extruding, I'll feel if it is. It's not. I'll give it a little push, and now it is extruding. So it is pulling that filament. You'll see the spool will rotate some, maybe. There we go. So we'll give it one more cycle. Like I said, it is a little bit longer filament path. It did not say anything about needing to change lengths or anything like that anywhere in here. And up there's the filament. There's the filament coming out in a nice little ball. All right, that's done. We'll go back over here and find something that we had here in a PLA and not ABS or PETG. which apparently might be a bit. ABS, ABS, ABS. So I've apparently done a lot of things in PLA or PETG. Oh, that could work. I think that was PLA. Let's do this. This would be a pretty decent size. So there we go. We were getting some filament out. So we're good to go. We're fully loaded. And I will switch over to the overhead so that we can see things as it's moving around. Hey, bearded printer, how's it going? Eagle, I'll give you a call a little bit later and we'll chat. They're supposed to be retained. How's it going, Honors Danger Den? You dropped the tool head off the rail like a, yeah. Well, yeah, that happens sometimes. Had to pack the bearing block back up. Dropped 3 balls out of the block. Did you clean the balls before you put them back in there? And did you lubricate it since it was already off? How's it going, bearded printer? We're going to close that and see if we can at least direct the fan noise up and out instead of directly towards me. We're just going to do a test print. So what we've done is we have installed the DXC Extruder. DXC Extruder by D3vil Designs, aka Omnarello. And this is in conjunction with Creality and Phaetus. So designed by D3vil Designs, built by Phaetus, and fully on board with Creality. And this is a zero change needed modification, meaning we dropped it in and all we did was rerun the self-test scripts, and which is input shaper and calibration. And so we're going to go ahead and do a print here. This will be a longer print because it's a SCADA's panel. Like the ones I took down to the folks at Ecovate. We'll have a red one here. Once again, this is in Sorcerer's Red. And then I'm trying to print out parts for the CASA enclosure so we can work on getting that built. When I build that, it's not going to be in here. It's going to be out in the shed, which means I'll have to do it in the morning or late at night when it's not ungodly hot. Apparently they use 2.381 millimeter balls. Yeah, that's fun. Yep, nozzle's coming up to final temp. And the DXC extruder, the nice thing about it is, like I said, it is a drop-in replacement. It doesn't require any calibration to E-steps, so I'm told. And you should be able to get better flow rate out of your nozzle and your setup because it's got dual gears that are actually adding more teeth to the filament as it's grabbing the filament and pulling it through. And I'm seeing something hit back here. You know what? I think it's the motor hitting on the actual filament runout sensor. So I might have to take this out. Yep, it's just catching on the edge of this. So let me pause this. No? Yes? Actually, no, I'm going to have to stop this. Because we're going to have to pull our filament. And we're going to have to remove this. So once again, by doing this, whatchamacallit, top hat, I move my filament sensor inside from the outside to the inside. And now this new extruder, since it sits up higher, is hitting this. Yeah, I need a window unit to keep cool. Agreed. So we're going to go ahead and just physically remove this and yeet it out. But to do that, I need to go ahead and retract the filament. So we'll do that. And at the 2mm. Yes. There you go. Love when I drop thingies. Come on. Goes that way. All right, so we're going to have to run multiple extrudes to get it to fully come out, and then multiple retracts to get it to fully retract. But not a problem. I may go see if I can figure out what the length is and just double the length. And if I can update and modify the printer config file, that would be worth it. Did you catch the picture of the bearing block you posted, the Reddit link? I did not. Fine. Be that way. Don't want it to run the routine. Interesting. So the only thing I have here is extrude and retract. So I'm going to have to go to the actual interface and see if, like the web interface, and see if I can just do a straight retract. Oh, why do you nerf things? Huh. So I literally have zero control over the extruder. Hey, Liz, how's it going? Take it easy, Waters. Yeah. So I've got zero control over the extruder, either on the front panel or the rear, other than running the eject, or I'm sorry, the retract. The problem is it pulls forward, does a little tip forming, and then it retracts. And the problem with that is I'm not sure if we're retracting enough that we don't run into an issue and get a nozzle clog. Huh. All right. Well, we're just going to have to do it the old-fashioned way then. Let that cool down. Meanwhile, I'm just going to clip this and pull it out. We'll clip it, say, right there. Pull this out. So basically what we'll do is when I did the mod up here, oh, we got raided. Hey, welcome on in, Raiders. Wow. Oh, wow. Hold on a second. Thanks for the warning, Liz. Polymaker rating in with a party in 95. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome in, everybody. My name is Digital Dragon, otherwise known as Luke. I'm a 3D printing variety streamer here on Twitch. That means that we work on everything from regular printers and just straight unboxing things like a X1C or the Creality K1C that we have up on the table here, to full-on printer builds like some of my Vorons. We have a rat rig, black box, toolhead changer, and everything. So welcome on in. Pez Liz, DJ Midnight Wolf. Hey, I remember you. Jedi Spidey, how's it going? Technoside, Bearded Printer. Thank you for the follow. Sharon P13. AWZ, welcome in. Traxman, hey, how's it going? Good seeing you. Good seeing you. Thank you for the follow. Jonathan MC Wynn or Witten. Yeah. Thank you for the follow. Korea Ricebox. Hey, welcome on in. Hey, Adam, how's it going? Yep, we got a raid. We got a raid. Hey, fix them, dude. CGS Creations, welcome on in. Clownhammer, hey, long time no see. DMAT, welcome in. I'm just trying to run through who all is here. And thank you for the follow. Digital Matrix IO, welcome in. Tesla's going for a lurk, probably getting ready for her stream with Zombie. Yeah. Hey, Ramon, how's it going? Da Vinci, welcome in, everybody. Yes, so what we've been working on is installing our DXC Extruder. This is an extruder designed by Omnarello, aka D3vil Designs, built by Phaetus, and fully endorsed by Creality. And this works on any K1 series printer. Now, what I've had in the past, and the issue I just discovered, was this extruder that we just installed sits up probably 10 to 15 millimeters higher than the stock extruder. And because of that, it is catching on the filament runout sensor. Now this tool, or this top hat mod that I did, moved the filament sensor from the back side of the printer to right on the inside here, and it's hitting it. So I'm going to go ahead and remove it because this is no longer needed, because the extruder itself has a filament runout sensor built in. So I'm just going to go ahead and remove this. And we'll kind of bring this back and mount it back in the stock location just to have it back on the outside of the printer. And this wire here is not needed. We just need to kind of fish it back down in there and tuck it down out of the way so it's not getting hit, caught up on things. I will pull that down through the bottom a little bit later. But for now, I'm just going to kind of work it down and out of the way. Hey, Kevin, how's it going? Kevin, did you get the files that I sent to you? Going good tonight. It's going good. Hey, Havoc, thank you for subscribing with your Prime. Bezo Bucks are always great, especially when they're out, we'll say, pissing people off having a wedding, you know. Let me see, because I think what I'm going to wind up needing to do is extend my PTFE tube out. How are we going to do that? Yeah, for now, we'll just leave it there, and we'll run this through. We'll just have to manually run that through. That's a pretty big opening, though. I have to see if there might be a different design corner that pulls the PTFE back out through the edge here. Work thing keeps getting in the way. I understand that wholeheartedly, Clownhammer. No stream for you. It's just supper time and a quick nap. Okay. Well, be sure to get some supper there, Liz. And thank you for the 101 biddies. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and just try and restart that file. What'll happen is once that filament gets down here, it'll throw the error, and we'll just feed new filament in. We'll try. Basically, we're going to try out the filament runout sensor there. And what I'll do is just print something a little bit smaller. Probably not a 7-minute test. Probably something a little bit more. 16-minute bedsheet? Sure, why not? A bedsheet should get us to a point where we need to, excuse me, have to run our filament back through there. But yeah, this is going to be pretty interesting, not needing this. But like I said, this does stick up just a little bit more, and I know people have problems with this knocking the top off, so you are going to have some type of spacer. Okay. Yeah, I will get you, I will send you a zip with some things. But yeah, we'll get you squared away. What I need to do, okay, where are my options? Valley Dragon? Okay, K1C. Let's see what I find here. It'll be interesting if I have to like reprint an entire top hat. I hope I don't need to. I should be able to find the one that I'm using though. And see if anybody's done a mod. Nope, not that one. Sorry, I probably shouldn't desk scroll through Creality Cloud trying to find a file while we're on stream here. I will find this later. But yeah, all we're going to do is we're going to try and print a quick little print and see if we can get things to trigger. And we'll test that out. This might be it. Nope, but this is a riser that leaves the thing coming out the back, so that might be something that we could do. So that would be a complete rebuild. All right, we'll figure that out later. This is a super quick benchy, supposedly a 16-minute benchy, so we're going to see if it's got some flow to it. Was the password set for SSH? It should just be stock. So it's a Raspberry Pi image with whatchamacallit, Raspberry Pi image, and then everything else is done with Kaya. So I should not have changed the password from what would be the default. So I would take it that you have an issue. Okay, it has filament run out, printing pause, please refill. So we need to bring some filament back in. So we'll bring this through, put it right there in the PTFE tube, and push it through. Hit refill. Now, why is it retracting? Yeah, I don't remember changing the password from the default, so it should be default, which is user is Pi and Raspberry is the default. Okay. Filament is getting pulled in and pushed out. Get that out of the way, that out of the way. And we'll go back and say resume. And let's see if it gets the zoomies. Yeah, if Pi as the user and Raspberry all lower does not work, let me know. Now I'm like wondering Did I do this off of Maker World or somewhere else? Like, which top hat did I do? Oh, events. Yep. All righty. Sorry, I'm sitting here desk scrolling, but we do have a benchy going, and it's looking like a pretty decent benchy. It's printing at 220C with a bed temp of 45. And I don't know if this is straight speed benchy rules, but it is a 16-minute benchy, so and I'm debating, Kevin, whether I'm going to try and set mine up for a X1C or not, because I'm running some maker chips right now. So I'm like, do I set up an X1C and test it with an X1C and just start running a butt ton of maker chips? But we're, like I said, we're printing a benchy and we're already at about a third of the way done. So this is a pretty darn fast benchy. This is a Polylite PLA Pro. So, and once again, it's Sorcerer's Red. Sorcerer's Red. Your chips, yep. You need to figure out how to set up Wi-Fi. God, you're gonna make my head hurt. You're looking for your WPA supplicant comp. I think it's slash Etsy slash WPA supplicant slash WPA supplicant comp. And that it, or it'll probably be as WPA supplicant example that you can use to get the structure. Yeah, so far I can say this thing's not having any problems keeping up with the flow. We are going to run some flow tests with this. Once again, we did just swap over to a new extruder. It's supposed to provide a little bit better flow, and it's providing better, just overall, more consistent extrusion. So okay. Yeah, slightly different than the one I'm using, but this is solid on the back and the left side. I chose a solid one on the left, and then I just venting out on two. So if I'm doing PLA or PETG, I can leave the vents open and it won't get too hot in here. I'm leaving the lid off just so you guys can see from the top down. I just need to figure out this new corner piece, because this piece and the corner piece is what blocks the original filament path out and around the back. So yeah, even this one shows the filament runout sensor being moved to the inside, and that's the issue. I had to remove that filament runout sensor from the inside, so I want to be able to get a good filament path again. Really, and this is the V2. It looks like he's got a V3 version out as well. Oh, so there you go. The version that I'm using is the version 1 of that lid riser you sent, Timur. Exactly what I'm using is version 1 of that. You've got the version 2. And I want to say there's a version 3 that he had listed there now. Ugh. Excuse me. Unvent version, a vented version with a pop-up lid. It looks pretty nice. Yeah, I'm still not sure if that would work though, because it has it moves that filament runout sensor to the inside again. So unless it has a cleaner cover plate for the side, we'll see. We'll take a look. That's funny. Like all the risers I'm looking at, though, it looks like it's moving the filament runout sensor inside. And if you do that, then it'll have problems with this particular design. That might be my best bet. Or not this design, but the new extruder, because the extruder sits up, it's going to hit that filament runout sensor. But yeah, so while this is printing, it's getting close to being done. I will bring you back over to the bench here, turn you around just a little bit. And once again, this is the RIF 600 project that we've been working on. We're at a bit of a stopping point. This is a 300 by 600 build, so it uses two build plates side by side. There is a version of this that's the RIF 900, which just extends out another 300 millimeters to the side and gives you three build plates worth of part volume. You can make it as high as you want or as tall as you want. You're just going to have to deal with your all your Z-axis stuff. And this just broke free of the plate and started. This is a print failure of the plate, which is also because we had an issue with the extrusion. So let me go ahead and stop this. And I do want to say this is not an issue of the print or the extruder. This was because I had retracted the filament, trying to get the filament out. Has anyone put this extruder on a dragon burner? I have no idea. I literally have no idea there. Let me see something. But I will say, I know this was not an issue of the filament or the extruder itself. You can look at the bottom and see where we didn't have full extrusion on the bottom there. And that was, like I said, just because the filament wasn't fully loaded when we started to run the print. But as you can see, the print itself was going along nicely until it started getting to the top there where it broke free. Good extrusion on the front deck and the rear deck. So we're going to print a different model. This is going to be a baby dragon. So we'll print that. And since we're fully loaded with filament, we shouldn't have this problem again. But like I said, we've been working on this. We've got our lower board down there that runs everything on the bottom. So it's running the Z. It's triggering the MOSFETs for both of the beds. These are standard CR10 beds. So they're like a standard ender bed as far as the construction goes. Printed circuit board type thing. The wires are run. I need to do some cable sleeving on those wires. And then do the wiring up to the, there will be a second controller on this rear center mount that will control everything on the top gantry. So this has been a build that we're doing, and you will see this soon. And I will say that the other half of the deck panel, thanks to Happy Manufacturing, we have these really nice ACM panels, complete with etching. So this has been a fun little build that we've been working on. The files for this build are on Printables. You can look up RIFF, RIFF 600 on Printables and find those. I love when they go, hey, this works for the K1C, and they provide print files on a K1 Max, a K2 Plus. But yeah, now the way this extruder mounts, once again, it's 2 screws from the right and 1 from the left. So it would have to have a specific mount for that. And I think something like an Apis 2 might be better suited for a dragon burner. Just because of the way it mounts. This would probably be easier to modify a mount if needed to put it on something, because 3 pattern screw from the bottom. This is going to be closer to like a LGX Lite mounting pattern. And I think there is dragon burner mounts for the LGX Lite. So getting this modified onto a dragon burner would probably be easier. Once again, you've got your tension release arm there. You do have filament runout sensors, so you do have the electronics on the side here. But this would probably be an easier install on a dragon burner.
Now, for those of you that are new, that just joined in or haven't been on the stream in a little bit, we do have a couple of other projects coming up. We're going to be doing a rebuild of the Ender 5 Plus sized 0G Mercury 1. So that is 370 by 370 by 420 build volume. It's a great printer to do helmets on and do full one-piece helmets on, like you see back here. That printer, it's currently a 0G Mercury 1 right now. We're going to rebuild it. And when we start, we're going to start from a frame-up rebuild. So it's currently on a Creality Ender 5 extruded frame. And we're going to build the Nebula frame kit from LDO, which is the custom full enclosure build for the 0G that I did under beta a couple of years ago for an Ender 5 Plus size. So we'll do that full frame build. And then we're going to start migrating some things over. And some things will come over, some things will not. Because the full gantry is printed parts, and we're going to be going to a full CNC gantry setup created by Turtle Crawler. So we're going to have the Nebula frame. We're going to go to full CNC gantry setup by Turtle Crawler. Those parts I sent out to SendCut Send and had cut. I think I need to tidy up some tabs from the cutting process. Easy enough to do. I have the tools to do that. And when we do that conversion over to CNC gantry parts, it's also going to be moving from 6mm to 9mm belts. And that's where a lot of the gantry stuff will not be reused from my original. All the parts can be reused, so I will take those parts off, probably keep them as a kitted out set. And the linear rails will, of course, move over to the new build. Hey, welcome in, Toby. The Hydra portion, which is the triple lead screw portion, that will just be lift and shift. As far as the parts go, I may reprint the parts and change the color scheme of the printed parts. I think I'm going to. So I will have to reprint those parts to redo them. And I might look at some of the other things to kit that out with. Yeah, we'll look at, like, do I do different yoke mounts, period? Can I CNC them or get them CNC'd? That type of thing. Just to provide a little bit more rigidity and bling. So right now, Toby, what we're doing is we have swapped out the extruder on this for the DXC. And by this, I'm talking about our Creality K1C. So two things that I noticed that I'm having, I don't want to say issues with, but two things that there are issues. I left the stock filament runout sensor. I did add a riser to this before, and when I did, the filament runout sensor was mounted in the back corner here. Because this extruder is taller, the motor is now hitting that when it goes all the way to the back right corner. So we had to eat this out. It's not needed. We had already removed the wire because there's now a filament runout sensor in the extruder itself, which is maybe one of the reasons why it's a little bit higher. So a couple of things I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to reprint all the parts to for a new riser here that will allow me to run the PTFE tube back out the back side of the printer. That will take care of that issue. Yeah, and then the other thing I'm noticing is when this comes all the way in the back, it is hitting the bottom of the cable chain right at the back. The motor's still catching right at the bottom end of it. So we may do something to deal with that. I don't know if that means get rid of the cable chain and go to a cable sleeve. I have seen some people do that, partly because I am scraping up against the side here with the cable chain. So, yeah, just something to think of. But I don't know if you can tell from the print. Probably not. Let me see if killing the light might reduce the glare some. Still not going to help because you can't see the print that's happening. So I can bring up the camera feed. If I go full display here, you'll see the camera feed. So this is the nerfed fluid screen that you get here. I have not jailbroken this. This is still a stock K1C. The only thing I've done is swap the extruder out. And the nice thing with the DXC Extruder, excuse me, my apologies there. The nice thing with this extruder is it's a straight drop-in replacement. You don't have to jailbreak. You don't have to change anything in the settings. So as far as Creality is concerned, this is still a stock Creality setup. The filament runout sensor that's now in the toolhead is directly connected into the board because there is a pinout for it, right? All we did was we plugged it in here, we unplugged the one from the back and removed it. What about an IBUS? Can you clarify, Toby? I'm not sure what you're getting at there. I'm not sure what you mean by that question. But we are printing a little dragon here, and the reason I'm bringing this up is from the top down, you really can't see. It gets kind of covered up by the gantry and the tool head. So by doing this, you can see that it is laying down very cleanly. Like I said, there is zero changes to E-step values or rotation distance or anything like that. And like I said, I still have yet to jailbreak or root this installation of clipper and run a actual full clipper on here, which would give me access to a few things like, you know, I don't know. Looking at this interface, I can home X, Y, I can home Z, but I cannot extrude or retract filament from this interface. I get no macros. And, you know, I get the print history, things like that. You know, the objects, this printing. I can exclude an object, stuff like that. Okay, instead of a chain, yes. So I thought about just doing straight like an umbilical with a cable chain, or not cable chain, but a just cable sleeving. I have seen people do that. I don't know. Yeah. This is a single, like, thick cable. I have seen people, like I said, just do a cable wrap, split loom cable sleeving on this. It should have enough hold that it doesn't sag down into the back of the printer. So, but I'll have to look at it. I do know that there's some mods for it. And really, the only time it goes all the way in the back and makes that tap right there is when it's going back to do the nozzle brush. So, yeah, I've been sitting out here on Creality's page just searching for risers and stuff, and I kind of like this particular riser right here because it still keeps the PTFE going out the back like it normally does. And I'm going to go ahead and just mount the filament sensor to the back of the printer. You know, the stock filament sensor will be mounted back there and just have it sitting back there in this standard stock location. But I want to say, let me see, K1C, K1C umbilical, no. That's a different routing for the PTFE tube. Hey, Evil Diesel, how's it going? So good news, your 2 prints are done. Bad news, they're still sitting at the store. So I can get them and bring them tomorrow. I am going back down to the store tomorrow. So feel free to come on down and hang out. What I'm doing is just kind of looking out here to see, and I'm going to have to do some other searches. I really want to yeet this cable chain and go to an umbilical of some sort. Hey, it's K1 Max riser and cable bracket. That kind of looks like an umbilical on a K1 Max. Does the K1 Max use a cable chain or an umbilical by default? Trying to remember. Jedi Spidey, do your K1 Maxes have a cable chain? There's a DXC Extruder fix. DXC Extruder fix? What's that? Simple fix for the new DXC Extruder on the K1C. The motor is set higher with the new DXC Extruder and it hits the cable chain mount when starting a print. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm running into. This raises the cable chain mount so the extruder motor clears it. You'll need 2 M3 by 12 screws to install this. You'll also need a riser for this to clear the top cover, unless you always print with the top off. Oh, hey, that might be a solution. Well, that's always nice. You still need to come over and get another printer. Is the meetup the 28th? Yes, the meetup is Saturday. So there's going to be a few things going on this weekend at the store. Number one, Waters and Beverly will not be there. They were going to be in San Francisco getting some training in X1C, or excuse me, X Tools, X1C, getting training from X Tools. And Saturday, like this coming Saturday, the 28th, we will be out there from actually before open to close. I say before open because Mrs. Dragon is doing a different thing at 11 o'clock for siblings of people with disabilities. And that can be small kids, medium kids, or adults. So siblings of disabled children. She's doing something there for an organization called NC Sibs. And then starting from noon until close, come on down to the store and hang out. We'll be doing the Maker Meetup. Once again, it's this Saturday. This coming Saturday, as in 2 days from today. He uses the chain? Okay. Yeah, this coming Saturday. Yeah, it is this coming Saturday. Evil Diesel was speaking wrong. Because next Saturday would be July 5th, which is the July 4th weekend, and I know better than try and schedule anything that weekend. Yeah, so it'll be this weekend, this Saturday. I will say we are taking over because we always do, but we have to be nice because Beverly's mom will be minding the store, so we got to be nice, got to be on our best behavior. But yeah, folks will be down there. We'll be hanging out. We'll be having fun. I've been working on a Voron 2.4 for Ecovate, or excuse me, not Ecovate, EPAX. So the owner of EPAX had a 2.4 that was having some issues, just reliability issues, the extruder cracking, that type of thing. It was running an afterburner toolhead, not a stealth burner, but an old school afterburner with a CW1. So they had provided a stealth burner toolhead that was fully built. So it was a single board. It had a single board on it with, I think it was like a 14 or 20 pin microfit. And I was not going to sit there and try and redo all of the connectors to a single 20 pin microfit. So we yeeted all the toolhead wiring all the way back to the printer, or to the Octopus board, and we're installing a Nighthawk stealth burner board, which will make it USB. So I've got to route the USB cable through the cable chains and get all that wiring tidied back up, and then bring it online and redo the firmware with all the new pinouts. So that'll be fun. But yeah, so we're working on that. And then what? Still have the V0 and the other 2.4 that belonged to Wolfgang. Wolfgang's 2.4 also had an afterburner, also had an issue with the extruder, which means I will most likely be tearing that back apart and redoing it with a stealth burner, and getting that back up and running. Yeah, and then Thunder Keys is going to be down there this Saturday to pick up his box turtles, because I've held his box turtles captive since from Earth. I haven't really. We had decided we were just going to meet up at Midwest Rep Rap Festival and he'd pick them up from me there. But then his plans changed and he didn't go to Midwest. So instead, he's going to come out on Saturday and we will exchange the. We'll get him his things back. His box turtles and his so it was a standard box turtle, an enclosure box turtle, and a happy turtle lettuce feeder, an HTLF. So I still need to build one of those. The box turtle that's right over here, I will most likely rebuild that to latest spec and potentially give that one away or do a giveaway of some sort for that, because this 2.4 right here is going to be converted to a stealth changer. That kit should be coming, I believe, mid to late July. Those sub kits will come to me. LDO is sending that to me and sponsoring that build. I will need to come up with the hot ends, but he is sending with that 2 Orbiter 2s and 2 Galileos. So I'll have 2 Orbiter 2s and 2 Galileos on there, and just need to do the hot ends. And then I also have a Micron to build. I have Zura's Micron kit, or not kit, but parts, along with a few mods that he wanted done to that. And of course, what happened was he was building it, and Heart K released the new Rev 1 parts, and there's no manual yet. So it's, I think, a partial manual and CAD. So we will be building that with mods based on a partial manual and CAD soon. So yeah, that's going to be fun. We'll do that on stream as well. So we've got several builds to work on. Now you have space for the next Mark III. Well, awesome. So Evil Diesel has 3 of my Prusa Mark III S Pluses that are in bear format. So we have them converted to bears. And we just picked up 2 Mark III S Pluses at Murph. So we picked up 1 Mark III S Plus and an FL Sun Super Racer from MakerMind Nexus. And then we picked the other Mark III S Plus up from KB3D. So I don't know, Thunder Keys. If there's anything that you have extra that you're willing to get rid of, let me know. I reached out to KB3D because I just got shipment notification for my package, which is my panels for the Nebula frame. And I was like, hey, if it hasn't left yet, because I know that, shipping notification primarily means we printed the label. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's been picked up by the carrier or been dropped off at the carrier. And I said, if it hasn't left yet, can you throw like 4 of those 4x6x6 bushings in there? And unfortunately, the package had already gone to the carrier. So, yeah, I was hoping that they could sneak it in and get it down here, but I couldn't do that, Thunder Keys, so you're going to just have to order them. Now, I will say, you know, maybe order a bunch if you're going to. They're 45 cents each, and it's going to be $5 in shipping, which sucks. But so buy a few. What's bare? So the bare is a stronger frame for a Prusa. And do they have images here? Yes. So basically what it is you take a Prusa Mark II, Mark III, and you move it from the original frame to this frame, which is 2020 and 2040 extrusion. It's a little more rigid, partly because on the Prusa you've got the metal central bracket frame, and then the extrusions for the front and rear screw into that. Okay, it's rigid, but it still can, I'll say, bounce a little bit or wobble. In this instance, you've got a 2040 base with 2040 uprights on the ends, and that gives you a really rigid base that your Z-axis sits on. And that Z-axis, if you notice right down here in this area, it uses like standard corner brackets, so it really ties it in and makes it a little more rigid of a frame for everything to move in. It's basically a different frame for it. You'll have to reprint a few of the parts in order to mount on said frame, but yeah. Yeah. So I know at least one of the bears that I built and that's over at Eel Diesel's house also has the Bear Exa extruder, which is just a modified extruder build that makes it a little bit easier to work on. But yeah, exactly. At that point, you just go in and say, okay, what am I buying? And by the way, Fabrico is running a flash sale today. Don't know if anybody saw that. But yeah, it's good. And there was an individual at one point that was laser etching those frames as well, which was really cool. Yeah, it's a pretty cool laser etched designs. So yeah, my little dragon coming out pretty good. Coming out pretty good. Like I said, I will run some flow tests. I will basically we'll run the flow test from Orca Slicer, and we'll see how far we can push this extruder and what we can get with the new extruder on there. Excuse me. And like I said, I think this will benefit the K1, the K1SE, and maybe the K1 Max even more, because I know that the older ones, that's the reason Omnarello came out with the Cyclops extruder, was it helped fix the problems in the original extruders that Creality sent. So if I remember the history right, they came out with the K1 and it had a series of issues. They fixed some of those issues and delivered it as the K1SE and still kept selling the K1 stock without any of the fixes. And then the K1 Max, I think, came out and then the K1C came out, and the K1C pretty much fixed all of the issues that they had with the K1, the K1SC, and the K1 Max. And a lot of those issues centered around the extruder. So there is the Cyclops, which is an extruder mod by Omnarello that kept a similar form factor to this extruder. And then there is of course, the DXC, which is a drop-in replacement for any of the K1 series, and it won't require you to change anything in your setup. And yeah, so far from what I see, other than it hits the cable chain mount in the back. So if I can find a adjustment that just lifts that up a little bit, then maybe we'll just do that. And I'm still going to reprint the top hat just so I can not have this open gap on the side, because I'm not going to be able to run through this even if it's not plugged in, because we're still going to hit on that. It might have been Focal Point. I know he went out of business, so that sounds familiar. But it was really nice laser engraving work. He had several designs he was doing on those frames. And he was doing more than just bare frames. It was, any frame you can send to him and have them etched. But yeah, you looking forward to the drive down here, Thunder Keys? Shouldn't be that hard for you. Shouldn't be that long of a drive. We're at 94%, so we're getting close to done here. I wonder, since we're using the web camera, which appears to have frozen. Just realized that. We'll do a refresh, see if it comes back to us. Come on. Get us a camera feed. There we go. We got our camera feed back. Here you go. See you later. Okay, Toby. Like I said, hopefully I'll see you Saturday. But thanks for hanging out. This is, like I said, getting really close to done. And as soon as it's done, we'll pop it off and bring it into a close-up on the camera so we can check it out. And like I said, I do have a couple of other plates that I'm going to try out on here to include that Godiva plate. Depends on if it'll be thunderstorm. Yeah. Yeah, that's about what it is. Well, it's a little bit longer. Well, because my brother lives in Fredericksburg, and it's 4.5 hours, I think, depending on which route we take and traffic, of course. You want a larger lab? I do too, Diesel. I'm running out of room, and my wife would really, really like it if I did not have a bunch of printers in the dining room. But I do. We're going to have another printer soon, too. And we're done. We got a few strings, but it's this filament's been sitting out for a while. It could probably use to be, a little bit dried, but so what I'll do is I'll just pick this off the plate. We'll bring it over to the bench here. And we'll take a look at our dragon. I'll go ahead and pop it off the plate here. Plate's a little toasty, but it's cooling off pretty fast. There we go. So, very nice, smooth bottom, and awesome layer lines. Like I said, we've got some fuzz up here, but this is a little wet filament, and that'll clean up real easy with, I need to get one of those little butane lighters. Actually, when I'm down at Ecovate tomorrow, there's a vape shop right next to them, and I'll run over there and grab a lighter to bring back to the house. And once again, those are easy enough to pick off, but very nice. The layer lines look good. This filament is very nice and shiny for a PLA, and these should pop off very easily with just a thought there. If I hit one that's a little bit harder to get off. There we go. And then we've got some underneath the chin here we'll have to get off. And a little bit under the tail, just supporting the tail. We throw that over there. We have a little bit of a bridge there, or not a bridge, but support where the tail rose up. So pop that off. And let's see if we can get under the chin without busting anything. Preferably not a fingernail. Oh, just like that, that popped off. So that popped off real easy. So very nice, very smooth too, and like no ridges or anything. Like I said, we're going to play with this extruder a bit. We'll run some flow tests. I probably won't run it with this filament. I'll probably take this filament out because this is really, really nice filament. And I'll need to print some other cool things with it. But nice little dragon here. So, wagon. Hey, RC Maniac, how's it going? So this was, we'll say, second print. The first print we did stop because it came free from the bed, but that was our own fault. There was no issue with the bed. It was the issue with we had tried to retract the filament and it didn't retract all the way. So we just said the hell with it, cut it to remove the OEM or stock filament sensor from the inside lip of my riser here, because this is no longer needed. The DXC Extruder that we just installed has a filament runout sensor in it. Now the only thing that I'm seeing is when you run the retract routine, it does some tip forming or some ramming. And this extruder is obviously longer than the stock extruder, and it's not retracting the filament all the way. And just trying to use the lever, I'm not able to free up the filament enough to pull it out manually. So I'll have to see what's going on there. Yeah, we'll have to see what's going on there. But yeah, it's printing beautifully. I am going to reprint a riser so that I can bring the PTFE tube back out the back. But other than that, we're good. And with that, folks, let me, wow, there is a heck of a lag on the stream. That has got to be a twitch. About a minute and a half delay is what I'm seeing. But it is Thursday night. It is time for me to raid you all out to someone else. Now, Tuesday night, we raided out to, who did we raid out to Tuesday night? Someone different. We raided out to 3D Print SOS Fader. And I was looking to see about raiding us out to Big Giano, but I don't see him online. So we've got a couple of options. We've got Science is up doing a charity event. We've got some people playing some games. Pop Berry Elnats looks like he's just live and printing. Hall of Tech is doing a PC build. Stephen Poole's up doing some printing, and that artist Amelia is up playing a game. Ron Cleveland testing some new systems out. I don't know. Anybody have a suggestion on who to raid out to this evening? I am open to suggestions, and I understand we are dealing with a lag, so I'll give everybody a few seconds to let that lag catch up or go through. All right, you have a good one, Timor. You think he's out all week? Okay, that makes sense. I know he was out at Midwest, and he wound up having to fly out because something broke on his car. So let's see, we've got a lot of gamers. Do a quick look at who may be out there all around. Yep, not seeing a lot. So let's jump over. We'll go ahead and we'll jump over to Science Stream. Once again, they're
Volume.
Okay. Now I'm wondering if Twitch is having some issues because it is doing some weirdness. Hey, welcome on in, Down Under Maker. You're just in time for us to raid out for the evening. Sorry, we worked and got the DXC Extruder installed on the K1C here. We ran into an issue where the existing filament sensor, which was mounted on the inside of my riser, was hitting on the motor because the motor sits up a little bit higher. So we took this off. I'm going to reprint a different riser that will allow me to run the PTFE tube just out the back like it would normally be. And we also do something to work on that cable chain some.